Well, well, well. Would you look at that? Juice Pro Wrestling has merch. Support the show by going to prowrestlingtees.com/JPWtees and get yourself a shirt. Enjoy the show.
You so freaking bad. Wrestle me.
Welcome, everybody, to Juice Pro Wrestling, episode 172, Wrestling and the Bandit, with our very special guest, Matthew M.K. Roblez, the manager of motherfucking champions.
Oh, my God!
Matthew, how the fuck are you?
I'm fucking awesome, dude. This is great. I really appreciate you having me on, brothers.
No problem, man, dude. So I remember watching I discovered you from watching the first Pele Pro show, right, on Fight.
Yeah.
And I was like, you were managing Sam Adonis, who became the inaugural champion. Shout out to Sam, another great dude, great guest of the show.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, man, this dude's fucking awesome. He's all decked out in Gucci and shit. And he's just like total old school heel shit. And from there on out, I started following you on social media. I've seen, you're managing Beastman and a plethora of other people in talent that we'll get into here in a minute. But I was really fucking drawn to you, dude, as a manager, because I'm just going to be honest with you. There are some good managers in the business, right? But they're all on TV. There isn't, at least that I've come across, a lot of really great managers that are doing what you're doing on the independent circuit, dude. So shout out to you for that, man.
Thank you.
And then, we had the opportunity to go check out Palais in fucking Texas about a month ago. And I got to meet you there. And I wore another Gigi Allen shirt for you, brother.
Yeah, I did. It was awesome.
I thought it was so cool because, like, you come up to me and you're just like, dude, fucking Gigi Allen. Like, is that original? I'm like, no, but like, it's a fucking cool shirt. I'm like,
yeah.
I just get, and you were like the second or third guy, brother, to comment on my Gigi Allen shirt down there. So Texas knows what the fuck is going on.
Oh, yeah. Well, and the thing about it is a guy like, people like Gigi Allen and that, everything that people do in wrestling is a lot of times drawn from real life. And when I see people like Gigi Allen, I subconsciously, I think in my character have drawn upon what he was doing and how he behaved as a performer. And it goes into my performances because sometimes I'll be watching an old Gigi Allen something and I'll be like, oh shit, I said that, or I just did that. And so, or I'll be watching myself and go, oh my God, and I don't do it purposely. It's just kind of somewhere in the back of my head. I've been doing this subconscious studying of heel type personalities my whole life.
Yeah, dude. And he's the ultimate heel. I mean,
well, the thing is, the guy was so avant-garde, not to get off the rails, but the guy was so avant-garde. He didn't give a fuck about anything but putting himself over and making himself happy. That's it, period. End all. Whatever he felt he wanted to do, that's what he wanted to do. And that is you can look at it as good or bad. I'm just going to say it's super rare because sometimes people are so concerned about the politically correctness of something or the different tunes of that, they lose themselves in it. And you see that especially when you hear the term sellout. You have bands or people like Gigi Allen that will get a tremendous sum of money, and then they realize, like, well, gee, I can't say fuck anymore because I won't be able to go on the Today Show or something.
Yeah. Oh, we ain't like that. I was like spreading from day one. I'm fucking cussing.
And see, I love it. And that's why, like, when I see stuff like that, I really appreciate it. And then the other thing is, when you go to Walmart and you see Iron Maiden t-shirts on the racks in kid sizes, it just drives me nuts. And so it's like, I don't respect the people. Well, I'm not that I don't respect them. I don't respect the statement when I see a 7-year-old in an Iron Maiden shirt. But anybody, an adult that's wearing a Gigi Allen shirt, I respect that because I know you have to seek that stuff out. You don't just find it on the rack at Walmart or something.
You're damn straight, brother. I got one I could barely wear anywhere because of the verbiage on it, but
oh yeah, and and the funny part about it is you can't wear that stuff anymore because your merchandise. My merchandise has got me kicked off planes before, and
really,
I sold these. These are my original Heel Factory stuff, and I had a shirt, and it was 2 years ago. I was flying from Miami to Salt Lake, and I just walked on, and I didn't think they were serious, but they had told me it was American. They said you've got to cover that up, and I'm like, what? Oh, okay. And so you know how they have the blankets up above and the little thing? I took that and I put it over myself like a bib. You know what I mean? And the lady says, you've got to turn your shirt inside out. I'm like, nobody can see it. And I'm like, who the fuck are you anyway? And then they actually had the captain come and call me out there and say, you've got to take that shirt off, change shirt, or turn it inside out, or we're going to kick you off the plane. And I'm like, holy shit, all for a shirt that said fuck on it.
American Airlines, right? Landed free, home of the
I just sat there, and to be honest with you, I'd spent a week on the Kiss cruise, so I just wanted to get home. But I turned it inside out, and I just sat there thinking about that the whole way, going, "What is so evil about this word that you have given power to?" It's so stupid. But a guy like Gigi Allen would have got kicked off the plane and pissed everywhere, or something like that.
I'd hate to see his Mile High Club.
Right. No, but really, I mean, anyway, but my whole point in bringing this up is that when we talk about wrestling and things of that nature, there are really real-time heels out there that aren't like murderers. They're just people that do what the fuck they want and they make money at it.
Yeah, for sure, brother. So speaking of heels, dude, you mainly work, well, that's all you work, to my knowledge, is the heel side of things. Real quick, for everybody watching and listening right now, give us a rundown of all the people that you've managed. So you're talking about the Heel Factory, right? Is this kind of like your Heenan family situation or something like that?
What happened is I started off, I really think my journey really started when I managed Bubba Ray. And that's when you don't understand the difference between cheap heat and real heat until you work with a guy like him.
Yeah.
And he was the definition of a term heat seeker. So the origins of working heel were working with him. But there were a lot of times that I would go to a town with him and he would be against the local dickhead or whatever that was their heel. And I could see him flip. And so I work primarily heel, but I've had to work face. And I'm not saying I'm good at it, but I learned from Bubba Ray how to turn. But I've started working with Bubba Ray, Sin Bodhi, and each kind of run, I guess you would say, you create that faction. You create you have to have that house divided, good guy versus bad guy thing. And so, it started off with the Heel Factory that was originally Katarina, Sam, Sin Bodhi, myself. And we had a really good run. Then Joe DeFalco in FSW knows I'm a Kiss fan. So he's like, well, why don't we create the MK Army? So that's what I'm currently doing. And that's with Juicy Finau, Toa Leota, Sam. It seems like there's so many people that are putting with me. And then, the whole thing I love about the team concept is I'm not just representing one guy. It's I could be plugged into anywhere against anybody, any other face. And it's that guy has that battle mentality.
Yeah, dude, it's so cool. Like I said, it gives me that like Bobby Heenan family vibes, man. And
he did the map. That's the whole map. And the thing about it is people can come in and out of it. And with the indie scene, Beastman and I have worked a lot together, and we've worked a lot against each other.
Yeah, I've seen him Palais, dude. He was like, I had enough of this shit. He fucking squashed it, dude.
That's right. And then that gives him the thing to fight Sam in Salt Lake like 2 weeks later, I think it was. And then the thing about it is, because he's Beastman and he's not all there, the character's not all there, then you can always, well, how did MK lure him back? When I have my hand bone in my hand, it's all that stuff that we saw and loved, but you don't, in my opinion, you don't see enough of it anymore.
Yeah, totally, man. Totally. So you work for all these different promotions, man. It seems like I check you on social media. You're fucking everywhere, dude.
Yeah.
What's some of the promotions? I know you, like you said, FSW, obviously Pele Pro, What's some other promotions that you've been attending?
Phoenix Championship Wrestling out of Phoenix, Arizona. Then like FSW is a pretty good umbrella because I own the Future Stars of Women's Wrestling, which is kind of a subset of Future Stars, and then Future Stars Mecca, which is another subset, and it's all the brainchild of Joe DeFalco. But Devotion Championship here in Salt Lake was great. I formerly owned Destiny Wrestling, but as you go through this cycle, you meet people, you work with people, and wrestlers talk. And so when a promoter is like, we need this guy to do something like this, or we need this guy to do something like this, promoters talk. And, Paul Heyman said in an interview one time, he said, you have to treat every performance as an audition for a future booking. And when I heard that, that's not only should you not just treat people with respect because it's the right thing to do, but you never know who if the guy next to you is going to be asking you for a booking. And so I've always kind of treated it like that. And for good or for bad, I've been successful at working my way to someone may not work with me, but they see me and they feel I can fit a gap. And in particular, Bubba Ray, my first big break was working in House of Hardcore with Tommy Dreamer. Bubba Ray had worked with me, and Dreamer was looking for someone to play the federal director character. And he gave me a call, and I worked for him at my own expense. You come out, we're going to work you in Freehold, New Jersey. You're going to do something a little different than you've done. Then we're going to work you the next night in Philadelphia. If you work good enough, then we'll give you a paycheck for this week. And then you just kept working towards that to where I finally was almost 18 months as the federal director character, all just because I treated people with respect and worked hard at never taking a night off and knowing that what I'm doing tonight is showing the next guy up what I can do for you.
That's awesome. And dude, it's so simple. It's, respect, man. It's exactly what you're saying.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of respect, dude, you were also just at the Cauliflower Alley Club, man. That's something me and Sretton have been wanting to do a series and interview everybody who's been inducted into that damn thing. And I mean, Sam got to pretty much induct Rey Mysterio into that. It's huge fucking opportunity.
Huge. And he gave a really hell of a seminar. Tell us about that, man. How was it? I'm curious to know the insider's view of that, man. Well, let me tell you something. If you're in independent pro wrestling, you really need to, in any pro wrestling at any level, you really need to become a member of Cauliflower Alley Club, because what it is pro wrestlers don't have a pension plan. They don't have a medical plan.
Right.
And so what Cauliflower Alley Club is it's a benevolent organization, a charitable organization, to where you're $25 a year, you're $150 at the Cauliflower Alley Club banquets and seminars goes directly, not to pay Brian Blair, not to pay anybody, because everybody's a volunteer. It goes into a fund. So when someone like Nick Bockwinkel, who had medical expenses, Brickyard Brown, any of these guys can draw upon that and help them out and help them through a rough patch. And so, number one, it's the right thing to do for the business, and pay and do the right thing for the people that really gave up everything so that we could be doing this podcast today, so that I could be going out every weekend acting like an asshole. You know what I mean? And so, and the other thing too is you meet people and learn. And they give the seminars there. And Sam Adonis gave a seminar about where he is in the business and how he got there. And I've heard many people say it's one of the best seminars. Years ago, it was J.J. Dillon and Dr. David Reese doing face heel psychology. So you have a literal psychiatrist and J.J. Dillon, probably the greatest heel manager south of Bobby Heenan, talking about the psychology of it. And so it's an amazing, amazing, amazing 3 days. And then the independent show that they put on Sunday and Monday night is you'll see people there against each other or working with each other that you'll never see again, or you'll never see, because the logistics of getting those two guys in the ring at one time is just too expensive for any one promoter to do, unless he just wants to lose money. And that happens sometimes, but ultimately, it's a business. So that it's really great. You've got to go at least once. And the thing about it, you've got to go soon, because the Cauliflower Alley Club is transitioning now from the generation that really set up where we are today, from the 60s and 70s and 80s, to the generation that was in the 90s and 2000s. And not that they're bad or good, they're just different. So the time to go is now, when you can actually see that transition. So you're sitting here with a guy like the grappler, Lenny Denton, talking to the Blue Meanie or Joel Gertner. Two different eras, but talking about the same thing. So Cauliflower Alley Club is something that everybody has to go to at least once.
Oh, dude. Yeah. Like I said, me and Surrender both like super stoked about that whole ordeal, man. And like you said, where the generation of pro wrestling is at right now. I mean, you're exactly right, bro. Because I mean, not only are we losing a lot of these men and women, but I mean, they're from an era where it's, dude, it's just different. And pro wrestling is pretty simple. You can learn like the old school cats, dude. You know, you talk about the psychology, in-ring work, anything about it, you know, like from people who took it way more, not to say people nowadays don't take it serious, but you know what I'm getting at, you know, when it was like, I wasn't in the locker rooms back then. Nobody was. It was either you were like one of the boys and that was it, you know? So to be able to pick those brains and learn and just see, like, I'm a huge fan of old school pro wrestling, dude, like from pretty much any era. I love the old school cats, dude. So it'd just be so awesome to sit there and chop it up with them, and then, you know, maybe go gamble off my house or something and have some drinks.
Oh yeah, and that's the thing, and that's the thing is that if you're respectful and you understand protocol, they will talk to you about anything. And I mean, I can't tell you the discussions that I've had with some of these guys, in particular Lenny Denton, the grappler. Some of the stories that he told me about how him and JYD would travel from city to city to city, and get heat. And then I started realizing that, you know, these guys, like, you know, I feel like such a pussy when it comes to pro wrestling, honestly, because, you know, I'm a bitch if my flight's delayed a half an hour. You know, these guys would drive 7 hours for $100, you know, city to city to city every day. And they didn't have a day job. They didn't have that. That was how they made their money, you know, and so you listen to these guys, and they draw upon that. It's no wonder they were so good, because they didn't perform well. They didn't eat. I don't perform well. Well, probably someone doesn't use me or that. And it's a tragedy, but it's not going to it'll affect my bottom line. But I'm still have a day job, and most of the people do nowadays. And so it's a different era, totally different. And if you want to bridge that gap and really see what pro wrestling is about and where it came from, the Cauliflower Alley Club or any of the other types of inductions of that is what you need to do. It's a requirement. And even from a pure selfish side of things, you'll get bookings from it. If you're good and respectful, it's a place to give someone your card. I've met a lot of people. Greg Anthony, great friend of mine now, that I would never have known who he was had it not been for Cauliflower Alley Club. And I've used him several times in the different promotions, and he always puts on a hell of a show. Dude,
so in rewinding here a couple minutes, you said you actually started Destiny. That was your promotion?
Yeah, here's what happened. I didn't start it, but it was started by some gentlemen who we used to use up here in Salt Lake called American Extreme Wrestling, and the Death Rage Cartel, Josh Payne and Dexter and Johnny K, Adam Merrick. And the commission got really hardcore in New Mexico. Mm-hmm. And I had saved up some money to start a promotion. And the dickhead promoter here in Salt Lake didn't know what the fuck he was doing. And I approached him with these ideas of how I think we should do this. And he just blew me off. So I went to Cauliflower Alley Club. It's a true story. I know this, it sounds set up, it's not. And I knew these guys, and we had worked together in different promotions. And we started talking, you know, why are we waiting on everybody else? Why don't we get Destiny started up again? And they were basically, well, you have to get a performance bond. You have to get licensed. You have to do this. I'm like, okay, then let's do it. And it took us a solid probably 6 months to get all that in order. And once we got that in order, there are only 2 licensed promoters in the state of New Mexico, WWE, Vince McMahon, and me and Destiny. And so we had,
fuck yeah.
And so we had a 7-year run to where we literally started off in a MMA gym, and then we ended up 12 to 1,500 people every show 6 times a year, which again, it's not a lot, but for an indie promotion, we got paid. And it was unfortunate that the athletic commission got greedy, or we'd still be running today.
Yeah. It's a shame real quick, how does that work with some of these? Because I don't know too much of like that side of the business with like athletic commissions and stuff. And now, correct me if I'm wrong, but is it like some states you don't have to necessarily deal with that when running a pro wrestling show?
Yeah.
What's it like for the ones that you do? I mean, I'm assuming, if I had to guess, it's like kind of like in my hometown where I live. If you're trying to get a business space and it's downtown in a historic district, well, you can pay an absorbent amount of money, but don't fuck up or anything like that, because, you know, it's just all these stupid ass rules and regulations that they just don't prohibit you to do stuff. Like, how is it with those people?
Well, here's the way it works: is the athletic commissions in like Louisiana and Arkansas, they treat pro wrestling the exact same as MMA or boxing. And so they make you, go to get a physical. You'd have to do blood work, and that's all fine and well. I mean, I want to start off by saying, I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm just saying that I'll finish my story to tell you what I think about it. Believe me, there's a payoff at the end of this long little segue.
We see it.
And then in Louisiana, it's just blood work. In New Mexico, basically what it was, they made sure you were physically fit. You didn't have blood work. And then they had a doctor there. They had EMTs there and things of that nature. Now, the good thing about all of that was that you don't have the backyard garage promotions where they basically give pro wrestling a bad name.
Yeah.
The bad thing about it is it's hard to make money. And so if there's any promoters out there that are listening that want to know how they get around their commission, is I would suggest you do what we did in New Mexico, is set up a meeting with the commission and explain to them exactly what pro wrestling is.
Tell them it's sports entertainment.
It is. And like,
isn't that what Vince did?
Yeah, he did. And what happened, and that's how he sued the Philadelphia, New York Athletic Commission, and he won. And what it ends up being is you go in there and you tell them, look, we're not saying we don't want you to regulate us, but we are not MMA, we are not boxing. And what I did is I happened to be in New Mexico when there was a Shakespearean festival going on. And when I talked to the commission, I said, I'm surprised. Yeah, right. Acting. I said, you guys, I'm surprised that you're meeting with me today when there's the Shakespearean festival going on. I was surprised that you're not regulating that. And they kind of looked at me like, well, what do you mean? I said, well, you're playing Richard III, which ends in a sword fight. You have two individuals out there with big, heavy implements whacking at each other, and you're not regulating that. And the one lady said, well, yeah, but that's all kind of planned out and staged. And I just went. And so New Mexico, I don't know if my speech had anything to do with it, but the end result of our meeting was they made us pay the 5%. They had security. They made us all get physicals on site, meaning they had us hop around and checked our heart rate, made sure that we didn't, we were physically fit to perform. And so it worked out for us because they're just concerned about safety and money. And
mainly money.
Let's be honest. Well, and that's what ended up killing us was we, once the venues, what almost inevitably happens with almost every single indie promotion I've ever been involved with is you find a really good venue with good people and they charge you a reasonable rate until they see the crowds come in. And then they're like, I want a piece of that. And then they start, okay, you have a deal for 3 shows for $450 a venue. Then you go to re-up and then it's $900 a venue. And then you get more successful, then it's $1,200 a venue. And eventually it's like, I'm not doing this as a hobby. I'm doing this because I want to do this the rest of my life and make money out of it. This is a business. This is what I do to make money. And you're taking money out of me. And I'm like, they don't take it seriously at first. And then when they see the money, they want a part of it. And that's why it's always best to go and do a quid pro quo type promotion where I know it sounds crazy, but in a bar or someplace that serves food and or alcohol, because they want you to be as successful as possible, because the more money and the more people you have, the more money they make.
The more beer they're selling, the more
That's
food.
Right.
Yeah.
But the promotions that only sell you the venue don't make more if you have a bunch of people in there. And so what they end up doing is charging you more because they think they're losing money the more successful you are. It sucks.
Yeah. Jesus Christ. We just got our own little dark side of the ring right there.
Right. No, it's
Season
true,
4.
Right. No, it's true though. And then God forbid if you don't tell them everything that you're going to do. Because, Sin Bodhi comes out and he has firecrackers in his tie. I don't know if you remember, he used to do that. And he would come out and he would just blow the firecrackers. And I would not consider those pyrotechnics, but we did that at one venue, and the venue just lit into me that you didn't tell us we we're going to use pyrotechnics. And I'm just like, okay. So, the littlest things, you got to communicate with them. And they were already frustrated that we had, 1,200 people in this venue. And they're like, and the guy kept saying to me, he's like, I'm not making any more for this. I'm like, well, but you set your price, bitch.
Yeah, dude.
And charge me more. Charge me what you think, dumbass. Right? But had he had alcohol there or hot dogs or something, man, he would have been happy. And that's what we've been doing with Phoenix Championship Wrestling. That's what we've been trying to do with Devotion. That's what we, FSW, when we do the casino shows, they love us because they're making money.
Oh yeah, totally. And like up here, we're big fans and Patreons of Warrior Wrestling.
Yes.
And dude, they have a great setup. And the cool thing about them, I've said it a million times, motherfuckers listening probably like, God damn, he talks about this so much. Dude, it's a great cause, man. It's for the school, for the kid, help kids get all that money goes to the school. And dude, what other Catholic school can you go see like the best wrestlers who are on fucking TV, AEW and whatnot, and get, I mean, I'm not saying go get lit and get stupid, but you get a nice little buzz. Like, I'm sorry, I'm a fucking rock and roll guy, dude. I'm old school. I want to go to a fucking wrestling show and swig some fucking beers, have a smoke, like, and watch some badass shit and have a good time with my friends. And you can do that there. And then, dude, I don't know their numbers, but I'm sure they do well, and it helps the school out. So it's like, but in turn, they're able to keep just putting on these shows.
Yeah, and that's the most important thing is stay vibrant. And if you can help people out along the way, like a lot of stuff that we've done in the past is a lot of times there'll be a volleyball team or a soccer team that what we've done is we're like, okay, tickets are $20. You sell them for whatever you want. Just keep $5 from every ticket sale. And you would sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But at the end of the day, you're doing what we should all hopefully be on this earth to do at the end of the day is help each other. And so when you can use pro wrestling to help someone, that's the best feeling in the world. And
dude.
And there's always if you can involve the soccer team in one of the angles or something like that, it's even more fun.
Dude, totally. Hey, real quick, man, for everybody watching on this, show everybody that shirt that you're rocking right now, because we're talking about helping people. And unfortunately, this was a person that didn't feel like she had enough help or enough respect or anybody there to help her, and I kind of want to talk about this because I was kind of creeping on your Facebook page and I saw a picture of you with Daffney back in the day, who was one of my favorite things about the end of WCW. And obviously her TNA run, which was awesome until we all know
until she got hurt. Yeah.
Yeah. But dude, speak to us about that. What was that? Where did you meet her at? Because you had like an old school ECW hockey jersey and shit on, man. How was that?
So there was Women's Extreme Wrestling, and I don't know if you ever heard of the promotion. It was a promotion out of Philadelphia, the Tri-Cities area, basically. Yeah, of course. And they basically were a bunch of the old ECW guys that wanted to continue this stuff going, but with women's wrestling. And so, of course, if you were anybody in women's wrestling, Angel Orsini, Daffney, you were in that promotion, Francine. That's where I first met Francine. And it gave everybody opportunity and a place to work, and it was a great product. And honestly, now this isn't official, but what kind of killed it is when TNA did their whole women's division, the knockouts division.
The knockouts,
They drew all of that from the indie places. And I was there the night on May 5th, I believe it was 2007, when basically all those people were signed. And you had Talia Madison became Velvet Sky. You know what I mean? And so, you're in this business long enough, you start meeting people like Shannon, or excuse me, Daffney. And I'll tell you something. The people that are the best in this business are the people that treat everybody as equals. And Shannon never treated me like I was just some indie guy and she was up here and I was down here. Whenever we worked together, she treated me with the utmost respect. Whenever we were out together, she treated me as an equal, and she treated everybody like that. And what I don't think that she ever understood, and I'm not going to profess to be her best friend, but I don't think she ever understood how beloved she was. And the sad part about it is it's kind of creepy to go up to someone and say, especially when you're a female, like if I'm a fan and I go up to Daffney and I act like a mark and say, "Oh, I love you, you're so good," it almost creeps them out. So guys like myself, and we all kind of have those boundaries that we set for each other. So I'm not going to tell her that, which kind of, I'm thinking, this is Matt Roblez psychology, that may have backfired on her, because I don't think she when you would be out with her and someone would come up and recognize and say how much that they loved him, she wouldn't accept it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And it's so hard. And so, like, my whole learning experience with Daffney is that when you know someone, there's nothing wrong with telling them two things: how good they are and how bad they are doing.
I tell Sren how much he fucking sucks all the time.
That's what I'm talking about.
It hurts every time.
Well, that's the truth. Because here's the thing. Here's the thing. If people perhaps, and it goes with everybody in any industry, if people were more honest with each other in the good ways and bad ways, number one, if I fuck up a match, I drink too much before a match and fuck something up or something like that, you need to tell me, because that makes me a better person. And by the same token, we all come out of these matches thinking we fucked up every match. You know what I mean? I need to hear from you when I say, how did I do? I don't want, while you're lacing down your boots, to go, you did good, brother. Tell me. And I'm not asking for an analysis either, but be honest with me, because I think if a few more people had told her how important she was to them, me for one, you are an important person to me. You make me smile. You, just by being you, not the character Daffney, you as a person. If you tell enough people, you tell people that, you don't have to look for the struggling people, because I'm not going to lie to you. We all knew she had mental issues. She was very vocal about her mental issues. Mm-hmm. But I didn't know how bad she was because I never asked. Right. And that's on me.
Yeah, dude, it was, what the hell was I doing? I think I was watching Dynamite, and somebody had tweeted out that, hey, any friends need to get to wherever she's at right now, because she's on Instagram and like shit's just crazy. And I looked on Instagram to see what the hell's going on. And, I seen it, and in the thread, and you could just tell she's hurting, dude. And I mean, everybody, Velvet Sky, ECW cats, you name it, anybody in the business was like, answer your phone, like, Shannon, please. Like, you could see it on there, and you could also hear her phone beeping, and she's just like, I think maybe at that point she just accepted that she had had enough, and she didn't want anybody, even though that's what she wanted. Like, it's just, we'll never know, but it was painful to watch. And then you see like what she had and what was going on. And it was, dude, it was so surreal. Like, for me as a fan, dude, I tried like, probably about a month and a half ago, reaching out to her, because I've been a big fan for a long time. And I always thought, damn, man, like, she would be a cool guest. I'd love to, chop it up with like music or whatever with her. And to witness like her final moments, man, it's just, that sucks. That's why, like you said, man, no matter who it is, like your friends, family, whatever, tell them you love them. Tell them what they, be honest with people. But the point is communicate with people. You don't hold anything like I ever do when I talk to people,
Well, and that's the thing is, like, I'm a couple of times in my life, I'm not going to say I have a drinking problem.
Me neither.
But
hell yeah!
But we all get drunk. We all do things like that. But I want to, the true friend of mine is the one that tells me, "Hey, brother, that was kind of fucked up. You drank a lot before that show, and people could tell. Because it changes me as a person to where I don't drink anymore at shows, because I did do that in the past. And so had someone just not told me the truth and just did the "you're okay, brother" thing, I would never be in the position I'm in now, because I would have just flamed out. And so it's just being honest. And like I said, Daffney, I don't know if any of us could have helped her, because I had a friend of mine who was not in the business kill himself. And I think that he just called me to say goodbye, because he didn't give any indication that he was going. There was no big dramatic, I'm alone. And so
Right.
I think they get to that point of acceptance that they're going to kill themselves. Again, I don't know her well enough to say, what was going on, but it's just tragic and sad. And, again, we're all put on this earth, I really believe, to help each other out, and in whatever way. And and helping each other out is telling people that you love them when you really do. And just, it can be a text, it can be anything, but it also is, if you see someone going down a dark path, you're not their friend if you ignore it. You're not their friend if you enable it.
Yeah, totally, brother. Totally. It's, it sucks, man. And they just announced her too as she was going to be in that virtual basement video game that's coming out.
Yeah.
Super cool. A lot of good shit happening. She was, she just did another podcast with, who the hell was it? Was it Mickey James?
Yeah.
And a few other wrestling women. I think there was maybe Gail Kim was a part of it too. They were doing, like a knockouts revisited thing or whatever. It was super cool,
Yeah.
So it's one of those things. There's so much fucking tragedy in wrestling, man.
Yeah, it's a tough business. Let's just be honest. I mean, when you go into pro wrestling, you're going to be poor. You're not going to be respected by your peers. And I mean by your peers, by baseball players, football players, guys in MMA. And you're going to have to work and get your ass kicked for little or no pay. And maybe, if think of it this way, there's something like 3,000 licensed professional wrestlers in the country. And there's maybe 70 signed to a deal making a livable wage.
Yeah.
So, we do this because A, we're crazy. B, you got to want to do this. You got to want to do this. And so when you do this long enough, you're going to have casualties. You're going to have that constant failure, because in a lot of things, you're going to have to go through 1,000 no's to get that one yes.
Yeah.
And when you really think about it, you've got to do 1,000 matches to get that one opportunity that I had to be with Tommy Dreamer in House of Hardcore, to be with Eddie Edwards in Impact, and those things. And that was so small. I've been doing this for 12 years, and that constitutes maybe a total of a year and a half of my career. You know what I mean?
Right.
And it's not for the weak. That's, and not to say that there's weak people. I'm just saying, if you're wanting to get into pro wrestling, you've got to have iron thick skin. You've got to be, and at the end of the day, the most successful wrestlers, think about all the wrestlers that were in the WCW run that were superstars, like Kiwi, Kiss Demon, and their run was a year?
Yeah.
Daffney's run in WCW was 2 years maybe?
Yeah.
And so it's a business where you're going to be in it and you're almost destined to fail.
Oh yeah.
That's not going to stop me.
We just did an interview a couple weeks ago that ended up being a two-parter with TJP, and that's kind of one of the things he talks about. But we talked about it in the context of storyline shit and longevity of superstars. And he was like, even the best dudes in history, and when I say dudes, I mean everyone. Their runs are usually 4 years. So everybody else, if you're lucky, you get a year. If you're even luckier, you get
unless
2.
you're John Cena somehow.
Yeah.
It lasted a fucking decade.
But it just, it's tough. Even though this is the best time to get into wrestling, the majority of people will not be successful because it's so hard.
Well, and that's the thing.
And the indies are the best they've ever been too. You go to indie shows and you're going to get it's not like, no
you get
disrespect.
Your fucking money's worth at most.
Yeah, no disrespect at all to indies, in the 90s and 2000s, because it was just you go to a local VFW and there's a dude that looks like he's just been his job is just to eat ham and cheese sandwiches, fat as shit, get in the ring and just botch after botch after botch, yelling at children and stuff. And now you go to a show, like I just went to a show on Saturday. We went to that Palais Pro show, and it's wonderful to see families and everybody going, and it's better than going to the movies, and usually like $5 or $10 cheaper. And and you could actually shake hands with these superheroes after you see people do shit. That's why that's one of the biggest reasons I'm such a huge fan. It's the best bang for the buck entertainment that I could go to.
Oh, it is. Well, there's no question that pro wrestling, and that's there's no question that pro wrestling, in my opinion, is the last of the true melodramatic theater. You know what I mean? To where
that's another reason I like it.
Yeah, I mean, because like if you go see Shakespeare, I'm not yelling at Hamlet. He's behind you. You know what I mean? You know what I mean?
That'd be dope if you did, though.
That would be pretty cool. But in pro wrestling, you can do that. I mean, one of my favorite bits to do as a heel is when they draw the ref and I punch or kick or bite or whatever I'm doing, because the fans behind are going so crazy, and you can just see the kids and the you can see him he's right there. He did it, ref. He did it. You can't do that in a Bond movie. You can't do that at like you said. I guess you could at a Shakespeare, but you'd probably be kicked out. But that's what makes pro wrestling so good. And to kind of drop back to what you're talking about, you have to keep pro wrestling fresh. You have to keep your character fresh. And by nature of the business that we're getting into, you're hoping to get that 2 to 4 years. And then you have to take a left turn with your character, and you may take a wrong turn. And then it's just, what do I do now? And
and speaking of that, brother, let me get dude, imagine this could have been imagine Hogan's train of thought back in WCW when it was like, all right, dude, Hulkamania somehow died out. The fans are booing the red and yellow.
It was stale.
It was fucking stale. We were entering a new era in society in the 90s, the dangerous 90s, that kind of introduced everybody in the reality TV, so to speak, and everything was just fucking real, and it was dangerous, dude. NWA, Nirvana, all this shit fucking going on in pop culture. Imagine that dude's headspace when Bischoff is like, hey, we want you to turn.
How scary is that? How scary would that have been if no one had cared? Just think about this. Now, think about this. Let's just talk here. Think about this. Timing is everything in this business, because if they ran the Hogan superhero American guy character maybe 2 more, 3 more weeks, and he totally bottomed out when he turned heel, so what? Because when you really think about it,
psychology.
Right. Well, think about this. We've all seen the heel turns where the guy turns heel and no one gives a shit.
Yeah.
And it's because they've waited too long. That just, whether Eric Bischoff is the smartest man in the world, Hogan, someone knew that that was the right time, because the Hogan thing had got so stale. Had they carried it off, the heel turn would have meant anything. Because it was the beginning of the smart march too. Because every motherfucker there would have been like, well, yeah, of course he's turning heel because his gimmick sucks.
Nobody, and listen, I'll date myself, as of this week, I'm fucking 39 years old. Happy birthday to me, whatever. I consider myself a smart mark at a young age. Because, there wasn't really no internet dirt sheets back then. But I read the fuck out of PWIs as a young kid. I inherited, like decades old, The Wrestler and PWIs and all that shit. And I just knew it, man. I fell in love with wrestling and I got fucking deep into it, brother, much like music. So I kind of knew what was going on. But I will not sit here and bullshit you like I saw that coming, like nobody did. Now, I will tell you this, when he walked out at Bash at the Beach, right? I'm sitting there and I'm fucking, how old was I then? Probably I shouldn't have been holding the wrestling buddy, but I fucking was. And I'm like, he's the guy. I just knew it. He's the guy, he's the third man. And he, everybody gives, what was it, Bobby Heenan shit for saying, is Hogan the third man?
Yeah, but who's he coming out? Whose side is he on?
I love that. I love Bobby saying that because that was Bobby.
Heel
that
knows
was
heel.
he didn't give it fucking away. I mean, dude, Bobby had been fighting the Hulkster his whole fucking career, you know, like I was so like, oh my God, that actually happened. That's still to this day. I don't think and young kids that have just came into professional wrestling will probably never get how important and how much of it. That's like all of a sudden, if Jordan in his prime left and played for the Wizards in his like prime, he didn't retire first. He was just like, hey, fuck Chicago. I got 3 here. Let's go do it somewhere else.
It would be Jordan leaving in the height of his career, Jordan leaving, going to the Utah Jazz.
Why you gotta put with the Jazz?
No, but he would do it. No, but he would do it. And then instead of that shot in the, what was it, 99, you know, instead of that shot winning the title he does that shot and the Jazz go over. That would, I'm telling you,
that never happened.
Yeah, right. No, you know, here's a heel. Speaking of heel turns that were very significant.
Mm-hmm.
Think about this. Prior to this incident that I'm going to talk to you about, female wrestling was female wrestlers fought females. Male wrestlers very rarely put their hands on females. There was a few incidents with like Tully Blanchard and Baby Doll, but up until this thing, pretty much females fought like wrestlers, like female wrestlers. Males didn't touch them until Francine's heel turn against the Pitbulls when she went to Shane Douglas's side. Number one, why that was so important to me is Sherry Martel was.
I love Sherry Martel.
Oh, love her. She pretty much wrote the book on heel wrestling, but she was always a heel. Even when she was a face, she was a heel. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Francine turning was a true heel turn. It happened over time. But what's more important than anything is when they put her through the table and opened the door for women to take bumps from men. Think about how that revolutionized pro wrestling.
Oh yeah. There's no lucha underground with that shit. There's no intergender. It wouldn't be accepted, especially nowadays.
Well, and I've talked to some very prominent wrestlers, and they've said at that moment they felt like the handcuffs just came off. Like, okay, now my whole wrestling style's changed. I am gonna punch. I'm not pulling hair anymore. I'm gonna, we're gonna do this. We're gonna do that. You know what I mean? And that was Hogan's is the key heel turn. But to me, in my opinion, my personal opinion, and it can be argued, number 2 is Francine turning on the Pitbulls. Because look at that, what she did with Shane Douglas in the 90s and 2000s, and how she would take those bumps like a man. And she was, JT Smith trained her, and she, pile drivers and through the tables, broken hips, and it, had it not been for those things, wrestling would not have survived. Let's just be honest, it wouldn't have survived.
You think it was that important to the history of wrestling?
I really believe that.
Huh. You got to come back when we do a top 10 heel turns of all time.
Yeah, I really know that. To me,
super interesting.
Was number 2, and I'm not going to go on it today because it'll go off the rails. But I really do have. That would be a great podcast. I would love to help out because there's so much behind it. When you look at the ECW TV leading up to it and behind it, and then how the other companies mimicked it.
Yeah.
Then you saw the numbers go up from that. It's unbelievable. But I really feel it was that important. And I'm a mark for Francine.
Who was it back then? And
right?
Still, fuck yeah. Dude,
yeah.
ECW did that with a lot of shit. And the one thing I hate, and shout out to Sabu, good brother, man, had him on the fucking show. And he's so fucking, I don't know how this is possible because everybody will look at RVD, but where did RVD knew some shit? And I'm not saying he got everything from Sabu, but he was trained by Sabu and the Sheik, the original Sheik. How is he one of the most underrated motherfuckers in the game?
Underrated.
The most. Like, people could say botches or whatever, but to do the shit he was doing, you're going to have some fucking botches. Hey, motherfucker, a batter swings. He doesn't always connect,
Yeah.
Like, Dude, I fucking love that guy, man.
There's this business, the thing that people have got to understand about this business, and you guys understand, and I can tell by talking with you, is that the paved way that we're walking on, the yellow brick road that we're walking on, is paved by a million indie motherfuckers you'd never heard of.
Yes.
Sabu, people have heard of him, but what I'm trying to say is so many people broke the mold, took that to here, and someone else took it and went over here. Thomas Edison, Nikolai Tesla. Nikolai Tesla started all this stuff, did all this stuff. Edison popularized it, but you ask any kid who invented the light bulb, he's going to say Edison. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Someone's going to say, CDRVD doing all this stuff. And I love Robin. And don't get me wrong, I'm not criticizing him at all. I'm merely saying that people don't, like you, they don't recognize Sabu. They don't understand what that guy did, especially because we have such a lack of knowledge in this country, not so much now, but back in the 70s and 80s and 90s, we didn't understand what was going on in Michinoku Pro Wrestling. We didn't understand what was going on in Frontier Mark, in FMW.
Yeah, all Japan.
All Japan, New Japan. There was, because you had to seek it out. You had to tape trade to get it. And so a guy like Sabu was miles ahead of his time and was doing his stuff in Japan. And it wasn't until Heyman brought him over that anybody even knew who he was.
Let me ask you this, brother. Paul Heyman's got to be one of the best, if not the best, wrestling minds ever.
Paul Heyman is God to me. And I'm serious. I mean, that guy has said so many things. And, people make fun of, here's what I'm trying to say. We were talking earlier about how this business is about failure, and you're going to fail, and you've got to, and people make fun of Paul Heyman at, oh, well, he wrote bounce checks. And he's all this stuff. I want to ask you right now, what's he doing now?
Yeah. Working for the biggest company that's on the planet, making a fat paycheck.
Goddamn right. And not only that, you ask anybody about what revolutionized pro wrestling in the 90s, and everybody's going to say ECW or Paul Heyman. Okay. And, you hear the stories about it. And I've never had the fortune to be fortunate to work with him, but I've worked with people that worked with him in Tommy Dreamer.
Mm-hmm.
And Bubba. And
yep.
I swear to God, the psychology that I wouldn't realize it until afterwards, but I would tell people, I'd go, God, Dreamer just Paul Heyman to me. I didn't, and the way he would get the best out of you, I would be watching some, shoot video or something like that. And someone would say, well, Paul Heyman did this. And I'd be like, God damn it. Now I know where he got that from. And so it was not only that best wrestling mind, but is how do you get the best out of
a person, a performer?
How do you get the best out of someone who has not just the best out of someone, but the best out of someone who has limited capabilities?
Right,
Sandman.
right.
Look at Sandman.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Look at some of these guys that they are greatest performers. Think about New Jack. All New Jack had to do was show up with a trash can, a noose on a fork, and stab people.
And that dope ass fucking theme song.
Yeah. And what would people do? I did a tribute to New Jack
lose their shit.
after his death. Yeah, I did a tribute to New Jack after he lost. After he unfortunately passed away. And the minute his music hit, I come out, then we had this guy, doing the ring announcing, and I come out and club him. And one of the other factions I'm in are called the Prophets of Destruction. Well, we came out and we all had New Jack shirts on. We all beat the shit out of this kid, but the fans literally went bananas. They went bananas. And like these are indie fans. A lot of them weren't even alive back then. And then I cut the promo. I literally started off and got business done with what I needed to get done with devotion. But then I literally word for word cut his promo where I said, I changed up just a team. I said, I want to say hello to my homeboy out in Florida, OJ Simpson. Keep up the good work. That's two less we have to worry about. So I go through all of that, and this at the merch table, a fan came up to me and was like, "That was so cool," but I didn't quite understand. And he was just maybe a 15, 16-year-old kid. He goes, I didn't quite understand what you're talking about, OG and all that stuff. And the kid that was next to him, literally same age, maybe 50, he goes, hits him in the chest and goes, "That was New Jack's first promo, dumbass." And so when you think about that some 15, 16-year-old kid remembers a Smoky Mountain Wrestling promo from 1994, it tells you how special he was, but not just how he was, but how a guy like Heyman could get the best out of him to where literally all he had to do, he didn't wrestle. He came, and he could wrestle. Believe me, Jack can wrestle. But all he did was just come out, and that's what Paul Heyman did.
I like to profess myself still as the new guy as far as the history of wrestling and all that. I was a big, like as a little kid, I was into like the 80s stuff, and Hogan was my guy. And then I came back to it in the 90s with WCW and NWO. I was huge into it. But I was watching AEW the other day, and this is my mind frame, but I have mad respect for Paul Heyman. And even more so, I literally just earlier today printed out an article that talks about how he approaches writing storylines and shit.
Yeah.
And because I want to know, because everybody talks about it. But proof is, and I'm always like, all right, enough. Like, I know Wallace and I, like him and Bodie talk about fucking ECW all the time. And I'm like, fucking enough already. The shit's been out of business for like 30 years. And I was watching a episode of AEW last week, and there's a guy almost at ringside, a fan with the ECF&W shirt. And I have no animosity. I don't care. Like what you like. It's all good. But like, I see it. It's a testament to how strong the storyline and the wrestling mind that he has and how he, this is not a good phrase, but infected his whole, like everybody in the back, everybody that worked for him. And it was the fact that like 30 years later, you got some dude in the front row still, like he went and bought that shirt online, and you could still see it everywhere. The way that people chant was because of ECW too.
And you know that dude was young as fuck, and he probably don't know shit about. I mean, he wasn't the one.
So that's,
dude, when we were kids, I remember getting me and Eddie, shout out to Big Ed the Assassin, we're getting the fucking catalogs that were being shipped to us by Tommy Dreamer and the Dudleys, you know, the order,
printed on the orange
forms.
paper and the yellow paper.
Yeah, dude, fuck yeah.
Because they were cheaper. Yeah, because what I was told is that they would go to the Staples equivalent of the 90s, and like all the shitty paper that was the weird green and orange, that was the cheapest shit you could buy because it was the stuff that was like left over. And that's why when you would send into your self-addressed stamped envelope to Philadelphia, they'd send you back and you'd get some lime green. You know, what the fuck is this? But
I mean,
here's
awesome,
a funny.
dude.
Oh well, here's a funny story about ECW, the power of ECW. So this last Saturday, I was in a bit with Hammerstone, Juicy Finale. Long story short, I set up a door. Something. You know, Hammerstone spears me and Juicy through the door. The door breaks and blows.
How'd that feel?
Oh, it about killed
Hammer's
me.
a beef castle, man.
Oh yeah, it was awesome. But it amazed me that I couldn't believe it, and I had to roll over because I was going to smile. Off in the distance, in the back recesses of the bar, because it was one of those venues, the bar, I literally heard ECW, ECW, ECW. Now we're talking, like you said, 2001, and here it is, 2021, and some people, some drunk bastards, see a guy go through a door and they're chanting ECW at an FSW show. So Paul Heyman,
dude.
Say what you want about Paul Heyman, but let me put it this way. If you've ever seen his video, Paul Heyman, the WWE video.
Yeah, I own it on Blu-ray.
Yeah, he talks about his failures and he says, yeah, I failed. Yeah, but you know what? That never stopped me from getting up the next day and say, what can I do now? How do I kick ass today? How do I start? Nothing deterred him from reaching his goal.
That's right, man. That's the attitude everybody needs to have.
In everything you do, I don't care if it's being a better husband, being a better father, or pro wrestling. You absolutely have to have that mentality, especially in this business where you will get fucking eaten alive.
Yeah, no doubt, dude. I mean, that's That's everything. And it goes over to music too. You know, I do the band shit, and it's like,
Yeah.
I've been doing it, we'll say professionally, even though, you know, I've got hot dogs and handshakes before too, playing concerts. I every time I went out there, it was, I don't care if we're playing with a huge ass band, like, you know, in death metal world, like Deicide or Suffocation or something. It's like, we're going to go out there and we're going to do what we know we can do. And we're going to fucking destroy. We're going to be better than everybody else on the bill. And, you know, sometimes if you're like, well, hey, I don't think I did that good on this show or whatever. It was always like, come back stronger. It doesn't deter you. You know, you don't get in that mindset. That's why I think a lot of people, especially nowadays, are just like, well, if something fails, fuck it, I'm a fucking failure and that's it.
No, you have to work fucking harder.
Yeah, that's the same thing with this show, brother. We've been doing this show for 3 fucking years now, and goddamn, like episode 172. If this, you know, we ain't on a strong ass run and talking to some cool ass motherfuckers, and getting to the point where I didn't really have an idea of what it was to start, you know, but it's taking shape, it's taking form, and I want to be that guy in that show for you and everybody in the business. Just come on and have a good time, and not spew the usual bullshit. You know, we'll hit some points here and there, but I want it to be like, I guess, like the talk show with Howard Stern-esque.
No, it's
I
great.
guess.
Yeah. Well, and the thing about you've got to do is measure your successes too, because like if you're one of those people that says, I'm going to start indie wrestling in July, and if by March of the next year, AEW hasn't called or WWE hasn't called, then I'm quitting or something. You've got to measure your successes and realize that there are people out there. Like I don't know if I'll ever get into the WWE. It's not going to stop me from trying, but I can honestly say I've had a good time and I've had more success than I thought I would. And so that doesn't make it better, but that keeps me going, because it's like,
keeps you hungry.
Well, what I'm saying is, look at where I was in 2000, 12 years ago, 13 years ago. If you would have told me I would be here, I wouldn't have believed you. So just keep working at it, and take those measured successes and build upon them, because it's the old adage, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. How do you succeed in pro wrestling? One bump at a time, and you fuck up, you learn from that fuck up and move on, and you're gonna fuck up. There's been WrestleManias, big fuck ups in WrestleManias. You know what I mean? And you just move on from that. And that's what Paul Heyman, to me, represents in this business. He saw that something had to change, and he knew what he needed to do to try and change it. Now, I don't believe that he had this grand vision and was like, well, first you do this and first you do that. He just tried something new and it kind of worked. And with those measured successes, kept chopping at it.
It's called going with the flow, Yeah.
Well, and that's the other thing, recognizing success, and not being afraid. Here's a stupid story. I'll tell you a stupid story. Don't be afraid to get out of your comfort zone, because my gimmick used to be an attorney gimmick, and I would wear a suit, and I would wear a really nice suit and sunglasses, and I did the whole, and then Tommy Dreamer made me the federal director of athletic competition, and so I was this straight-laced guy, and so my run in Impact went over, my run in with House of Hardcore ran over. So I was working with Sam Adonis in Pittsburgh doing the WrestleRex thing. And he picks me up from the airport one day, and I wore those tracksuits to travel because they're like pajamas.
Yeah.
And that's just what I wore. That's just who Matt Roblez is. And he picked me up from the airport, and he looked at me and he goes, "Did you bring your suit?" And I said, yeah, my 3-piece suit. And then he goes, "I don't want you wearing that tonight." And I said, "Why?" And he goes, "Because you look like such an asshole wearing that Gucci suit."
Yes.
And I just went, and it hurt. Yes. I got to tell you, Sam and I love Sam. I mean, people joke that we act like we're married. We probably are in some weird way, but it hurt. It really hurt me. It hurt my feelings. Like we're talking like almost crying hurt feelings, but I trusted him. And I went out that night with Beastman, and the fans just went over, and they just, and that's why I wear that today. It was 3 years ago. And so you can't be afraid to try something new, because at the end of the day, let's not take ourselves seriously. Had I gone with that tracksuit and it failed, Yeah, it was in front of 700 people in Pittsburgh. So what? There's a billion people that don't give a fuck. So go back to the suit if it doesn't work, you know?
Right.
But I still tell him that story because that fucking hurt my feelings.
Brother, so you mentioned to me, we were talking earlier today, you're going to be heading out to the Notre Dame game going on, which is super fucking cool. So you're a big sports guy. And I seen, what exactly is it you do out there in Utah, man? Because you're at the games at the University of Utah too, right?
So what I do is I've been working for ESPN since 1999. It's one of those, another one of those things where half of life is just showing up. And literally I started holding, you know, those big salad bowl looking things, the sound dishes.
Yeah.
You know, that's what I started at. And, you know, just was a good hand on the broadcast crew. And eventually they handed me a mic and then eventually they put me in the booth. And here's a kayfabe broadcasting secret. And I don't know if y'all know how this works, but you know how the play-by-play guy and the color guy always know the dude's name, his hometown, and all this kind of shit. You know what I'm talking about? And it's like, how the fuck does he know that? You know?
Yeah.
Like, oh, that's Billy Robinson. You know, he went to high school here in such and such Illinois. And you're like, what the fuck? How the fucking guy was in one play? How do you know that? Here's how it works. I do what's called spotting. Okay. So you create a spotting board. It's just a piece of paper, and it has every player on the field 3D lined up. So you have offense, defense, home offense, away defense, away offense, home defense, every player. And it's a board, it's about 30 by 22, and you tape it down. And I sit there with binoculars. So here's how the play goes. I literally am pointing on the board who's in the backfield, like this. And so the color guy looks over, he knows who's in the backfield. And on each one of those little squares has their name, height, weight, number, and a few factoids about it. So then it goes back and it's a running play. And he hands the ball to someone. I point and just kind of tap on who the ball carrier is, right? Then I keep my finger there. And then when he gets tackled by one or two guys, I put my finger on those. So the guy looks down and goes, oh, so-and-so has the ball. And he was tackled by so-and-so and this guy. And then the stats guy over here is holding up how many fingers, how many 6-7 yards or something like that. Yeah. Or I've seen some stats guys, they have a grid that has no gain 1 through 100 on it. And so they'll point at that like 16-yard gain. And so that's how these guys operate. So they don't have they do have notes, but primarily that spotting board is gone.
That's
so
quite
I'll
a
be
dance.
watching. Yeah. And so you'll be pointing. And no, that's how these guys are like computers. You're like, God, how did he know that? That's how it is. And so like when guys go off, I point to the guys going off the field and do this. And then I point to the guys that took their place like that. And I'm just doing all these hand motions. I don't know if he's looking at me. He may be or may not be, but you have to continue to do that so they know how to call the game. That's what I do for ESPN.
That's fucking awesome, dude.
Yeah. It gets paid to go to every single Utah game. Who doesn't want to do that?
Right.
You know,
exactly.
and then you can call your connections and the different affiliates and say, hey, how do I take this Notre Dame Cincinnati game? You know, that I want to. Okay, let me see if I can't hook you up with someone. We got box seats.
Nice.
Yeah, we're like what do they call it? Like the coaches club or something like that. I've never, it sounds like fun.
Hell yeah. Notre Dame, that's my favorite college team. You know, we were talking like, you're a Notre Dame fan. I'm like, fuck yeah, dude.
Yeah.
Remember meeting Bob Davie back in 98, man, the whole damn team.
Oh yeah. I love that. And like I told you, Bob Davie to me is the example of, again, giving up on things. They gave up on him 2 seasons too early because you look at what Tyrone Willingham, who is the shittiest Notre Dame coach ever, that guy won games his first 2 seasons primarily because that talent was so good that he couldn't lose. And had Bob Davie been in place those 2 years, I'm telling you right now, he would have been a national champion.
Yeah, no doubt. I'll totally agree with that statement, brother. Yeah. Hey, real quick, as we wind down here, I want to kind of jump back more into music because I see that you're a big music guy too. And I've seen on your Instagram, there was some chick. I think she was a bass player for some band out in Salt Lake. God, I can't think of what it was, but dude, I mean, you're going to concerts, you're doing this shit. What's kind of your musical likes and dislikes?
I love music. I've been a heavy metal freak from day one. My entrance music is "Keep It Heel" by Betsy Bitch of the band Bitch. And she wrote that music, and then I've played in bands with Paul Stanley, Don Felder. Yeah, and
you see that video where his hair caught on fire?
No, I didn't see that. Oh yeah, Paul Stanley. Yeah. Oh yeah, it's funny. Almost
kept fucking playing like a specialized pro.
Yeah, right. Those guys. Yeah, and so anytime anybody wants me to sing, I'll go out and do my best in old 80s metal. I played on the 50th anniversary of Whiskey A Go Go.
Oh shit!
Gene Simmons taught me to play the bass in one day. So I don't have a musical background, except I'm just too unaware of how bad I am. Almost like outsider music. But I'll just go out there and do it. I don't give a fuck, because like I said, I can always fall back on, well, I'm not a musician, I'm a pro wrestler. You know what I mean? But I love music, and I love music. I love my I come from a musical family. My sister was a musical band and orchestra teacher, so I grew up listening to everything and just found heavy metal. And to me, heavy metal is tits. And then you go from that heavy metal, you go to you're going to Cannibal Corpse, you're going to Deicide. You know what I mean? Yeah. Then you go to the Norwegian black metal, and you're talking about Frozen Moon, and you go into all the really, really, really good music that's out there. And then I like Rick Springfield. I love it. I love Mariah Carey, and I love Paul Abdul. So I mean, to me, I'm an all music guy. Back in high school, not so much. It was like fighting words if you like new wave or something other than metal.
Yeah.
But as you mature through your life, you realize that I'm not afraid to like guilty pleasure music. And if the Backstreet Boys come on and I like the song, I'll turn it up.
Crank it up, fuckers.
And the thing that drives me nuts is why there aren't more crossovers. Because there's really good songs like Wasp. You look at even like Ace Frehley, took New York Groove, which was kind of a clunky 70s, dinosaur rock, druggy rock thing, made it more contemporary. I'm really surprised at all the good music out there that Intruder took 24 or 6 to 5, 25 or 6 to 4, and they did their heavy metal version of that. I don't know why there isn't more of that on the deeper end of things. Like, why isn't 6 Feet Under doing, Cold Hearted Snake?
Right. They do the Graveyard Classics. And it's funny you say that, because today on the way to work, I'm a big Bachman Turner Overdrive fan, dude. Yeah. And 6 Feet Under doing Not Fragile, dude.
Right. Yeah, right. You know what I'm saying? And so, there's all that. So I just love music. And I've always said there's 3 businesses that are very related and almost identical. And that's music at the indie level, comedy at the indie level, and pro wrestling at the indie level.
Yes.
Because, my brother-in-law is an indie guitar guy. And you've got me being a pro wrestler. And then there's a pro wrestler out of New Mexico named Joe Casada. And when we all talk, it's so odd. It's like you say, it's just so odd how similar things are. And it's interesting because and anybody out there, not that you ask for my advice, but if you really want to find out about indie pro wrestling, is go talk to a comedian and find out how they succeeded, because they go through the same thing, getting bookings, the same thing, driving from town to town, and it's just similar industries.
Yeah, brother. And you're not the first person to tell us that. Dude, that's fucking awesome, man. And you got guys like Ron Funches, who's trying to, take his hand. He just had a match doing the pro wrestling gig. It's fucking crazy how it all intersects, man. Let me ask you this, because I'm a huge, huge fan, and just with your musical palette, you like Frank Zappa?
Yes, love him.
Yeah.
You want to think about Frank Zappa and different things, is think about his daughter, what she did to the whole Valley Girl thing. that Valley Girl song doesn't come out, the world doesn't know about that Southern California culture, because people if you want to look at the origins of people that aren't recognized for things, it's Moon Unit.
Yeah.
She when she did the song Valley Girl, it brought a focus and a spotlight on that started that whole crazy 80s.
Like, oh my God, got me with a spoon.
That song doesn't come out. And not only that, Frank Zappa doesn't give her the freedom to do such a silly song. 80s culture would have been completely different.
I'll agree with that statement.
Yeah.
I fucking love Zappa, dude. I named my oldest boy's middle name is Zappa.
That's awesome.
Hell yeah. I got to, we actually went and seen Dweezil about 4 or 5 years ago around here, and we got to meet him. And I was talking to him on Instagram. I was like, hey man, this, my boy, I named him after your dad. Like, music means a lot to me. And we're sitting there, they fucking open up with the Star Wars theme, and they're playing that instrumental. And then they kick in I think Inca Roads or something after that. And they're saying like, hey, we have someone sitting in the audience tonight that's probably the youngest person here. And they fucking shine a light on my son, dude. And I'm sitting there and I'm like almost in tears, dude. I'm like, that's this is so awesome. Fucking cool, dude. And they're like, Anders Zappa, and he's sitting there like, he loves it, but he's like freaked out at the time. He's probably like
my pants
7, dude. And man, it was such a cool moment. And it's so cool when people like that, are really awesome like that. Going back to what we were talking about, in the beginning of the episode, like just everybody being cool to each other, being honest, being open, like for him to do that meant a lot to me, man. And especially being the huge Zappa nut I am. And nowadays my son's like, kind of like, you're a fuck Frank Zappa. And I'm like, hey, fuck you.
Yeah, right. Yeah, isn't that funny how your kids do that? Like my kids, I don't know when it happened to them, but I'd bring them to all the indie wrestling shows before I was involved.
Yeah.
And, they loved every bit of it. My daughter and I, Impact Wrestling would be over in like 2006 or 7. And we'd be on the phone talking about it. And then all of a sudden there was a 6-month period, but no longer pro wrestling is no longer cool. And so now my kids are like, yeah, my dad, yeah.
That's how my son is too, man. We go to
like,
Warrior and shit with me. Dude, he did. He Rhino wrestled out here once, and he was wrestling an indie guy, and he held a dude. And my son Anders goes up, and he got to chop the guy, and I was like, dude, this is fucking awesome. And then a couple years later, he's like, Dad, I like football. I'm like, yeah. That's cool, brother, but don't be knocking me because I like wrestling, you little bastard.
Right. Well, and that's the funny thing is like my son has had the opportunity, being that when I would watch him when he was a minor, I'd have to go to these shows, so I'd have to bring him with me.
Yeah.
And he would be in the back, and he'd be sitting next to playing some stupid video game, sitting next to the Gallows or, and I'm like, do you not realize who these people are? Well, that's Drew. Well, yeah, but, stupid kids.
Matt, so as we end here real quick, I want to shoot this at you. I usually don't do like top whatever, but give me a quick list that people you can name on your hand are the coolest motherfuckers that you were involved with in the professional wrestling industry.
Okay.
Who are your sweethearts?
Yeah, number 1, Sam Adonis. Sam is the smartest pro wrestler. He's phenomenal in the ring and
great historian too, man.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. A great historian. Sam Adonis. Tommy Dreamer, number 2. Tommy Dreamer is the most underrated wrestling talent guy. I mean, if you look at, people don't realize how many people he brought into the business that are still in the business to this day. And he recognized something in me and gave me an opportunity when no one else really wanted to in the bigs would be Tommy. Then Bubba Ray Dudley. Bubba Ray Dudley is, to me, he's another guy that is just knows so much about the business. And he's the one to me that taught me the phrase, and it's true. There is no old school or new school. There's the right way and the wrong way. Meaning that pro wrestling is still basically the same, and you don't do stupid shit in pro wrestling because there's still fundamentals. And he's the guy that said, I can teach anybody in here to do the moves, but it's going to take you a lifetime to learn the psychology.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then there's a guy that you probably don't know. And he's an up and comer. His name's Manny Lemons. And he's the promoter and owner of the Al Snow's school here in Utah.
He just did some Impact, right?
Yeah, he did. Manny Lemons, awesome guy. another guy build himself up from absolutely zero, bust his ass every day, talented guy. And then I would probably, are we limiting it to talent or are we limiting it to
No, anybody
No
in the
limits.
biz.
Psycho Clown would be number 5.
Hell yeah.
Psycho Clown is
Lucha.
yeah. I mean, first of all, his psychology, there's nothing he can't do. He can be face, he can be heel, he can be rudo, he can be technico, he can do Japanese style, Mexican lucha style, hybrid. He can do
Is his English good?
His English is excellent.
Awesome. I never met him. I don't know.
Yeah, and not only that, he is willing to do anything for the good of any show. And no matter who you are on the show, he recognizes that you're important to the show. And if the promoter has given you the time of day, because he didn't know me from Adam when we first worked with him in New York, and he could have just done nothing with me. And a lot of people do with managers. They're just like, you're on the outside, pound the mat, kid. And I'm okay with that. But he put me in there, and he did. I mean, and then lastly, something that when you see him work, it's just unfortunate that more people don't get to see him work because he's so good. He's just so good. He's just so there. He reminds me of Kareem Abdul-Jabbar or Michael Jordan. They were so good at what they did, you didn't realize they just scored 30 points on you.
Yeah.
You wait, what just happened? Psycho Clown's the same thing. He's so good at everything that he does that you don't realize how that arm drag in the opening just led to the finish. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Fuck yeah, bro.
But those are my top 5.
Hell yeah, that's a good top 5 to have. Hey, and real quick, let everybody know what you got going on coming up. If you got any merchandise where they can buy it, where I can get one of those fucking hats.
Yeah. Just do all I ask is people follow me on my social media. My name is Matthew Roblez. It's at the MK Bandit at Instagram, and on Twitter. Support me in that way. The next show that's going to be one I won't be on it, but I'm going to promote it anyway. Is going to be October 9th in Las Vegas, Nevada, FSW. November 6th is the next time I'll be performing. It'll be here in Salt Lake City with Devotion Championship Wrestling. But listen to University of Utah football, ESPN 700. Go to ESPN 700. Link it up with what you're watching on TV. Listen to our broadcast. Fuck those guys on TV. You'll get more insight from me, Scott Mitchell from the Detroit Lions, Scott Mitchell, Miami Dolphins, Detroit Lions, and Bill Riley is the greatest color commentator. So listen to University of Utah football. Support University of Utah football. And then, like I said, you've got Phoenix Championship Wrestling #1, October 15th. I won't be there, but that's my promotion there. We're going to have a kick-ass show there. Those are the ones. FSW in Las Vegas, Phoenix Championship Wrestling in Phoenix, Devotion Championship, and then, of course, Palais Pro, and then Squared Circle Pro in Lubbock, Texas. Those are the ones you want to support in University of Utah football.
Fuck yeah. Well said, brother.
Thanks, you guys.
Dude, anytime. And for everybody out there listening right now, please hit like and subscribe. If you're watching on YouTube, leave a rating and review, and make sure that you guys share with people, because we like to have fucking fun. This was a great conversation.
This was fun.
It was fucking fun.
That's right.
It's
great. We can discuss Cannibal Corpse, Kiss, Backstreet Boys, and pro wrestling.
Yeah, you ain't gonna get that shit anywhere else. I'm sorry, but you just won't. Hey, while you're at it, we have a new pro wrestling tees store. We got 3 fucking badass designs. Sren's really proud of his Technical Rudo shirt. It's a pretty dope ass shirt. You should buy it. You should buy all 3 designs. Hit those up. ProWrestlingTees.com/JPWTees. Follow us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, even TikTok, any social media. Just Google Juice Pro Wrestling Podcast. We're everywhere. And until next time, we like to pay a little homage to Eazy-E on this show, brother. Matthew, you've been a great guest. I fucking love you, brother. We're going to have to do this again.
Thank you, man. Yeah, anytime, brother.
You'll be back.
I can't wait.
Wet 'em up. Wet 'em up. Wet 'em up. Wow.
Oh my God, it's so fucking wet. Commander Roblez, it's fucking insane.
Until next time,
Yeah.
bitches.
You gonna do sex to me?
Did you like that video? If so, be sure to hit like and subscribe and check out more killer content from your boys at Juice Pro Wrestling. Whoa, yeah!